I think you can go back to your own activity and then we'll continue to edit it. Okay. Okay, so let's ready now. We'll come to the first session today. We're going to add more slides. Now I will go to some questions about geometry. Okay, now we go on to edit. Right, continue to edit your activity, and then you can see here we have 4 slides, and then I click to the last one and add one more. You can rearrange it actually anytime you like. Okay, just like what I'm doing. Right now, here the fifth slide. Now I now turn to another component, which is geometry, which is also very useful, I think, in general. Right. So you can here click on the geometry tool, and then you have another area. It's not exactly about drawing graph, even though you can still draw graph inside. Or you can click inside and see what it look like. And now, basically, the left-hand side is more or less the same. You can still type equation, actually. Right? So it may look like something about the graphing calculator. More important is that you have some geometric constructions tool here. Right? So you can add point here, or even some special point like the midpoint. You can draw line segment, right? And then it will be very convenient for you to create geometric examples and idea, and circles and so on. Okay. And then area. Now, by the way, the example that you hear earlier today, okay, are rather complicated ones and also created before by another geometry tool in the Desmos, which was not so friendly actually. Okay, so there's a lot of step for you to go on if you are using the old tool. Fortunately, I will say that now with this updated geometry tool, the construction can be much easier. Okay, so you can do it in a very friendly way. Don't worry about those previous examples. Okay, let me see what I have prepared. Okay, I've prepared a single question based on a triangle. So I don't need the grid, so I turn it off. All right, do you see that? So I prefer a blank paper. And then I can start with line segment. All right, so here is you can click one point and then click another point to finish a line segment. And then you can continue to add another one using this point as the starting point and then another point as the end point. Click again. Then you have another segment, but the point here is common. Okay, this point here. Now I go on to add another segment, click this point again, and then I can now end here somewhere on the line. You can see that here, this point will be stick to the line. Okay, so it should be somewhere on the line. And similarly, I can also start here and then go on to make a line down here and the bottom. All right, so attach it to another line segment. And finally, I go on to the selection tool. Now I see whether all the lines are well connected in the way I expect. All right, so we can have a try like this. And I want one more point in the intersection. So this time I just need a point. I don't need additional line segment. So I can click a point here in the intersection. So I have a figure, go back to the arrow tool before you can adjust it and change. Okay. So you can see whether it worked properly. And the next thing I would like to do will be adding some angles. All right. So I can start anything, anywhere I like. Oh, some of you say that you don't have the geometry button. Okay, let me go back. Okay, I just go outside first. All right. And in fact, yes. So I think you have to check your setup here. I forgot to remind you. Under your account, you can see these options of Desmos Labs. Desmos Labs, okay? And inside this, actually, because they still treat the geometry tool as beta tool, then you have to click to select it, okay? So I think most probably you haven't come to this part to add the tool. That's why you don't see the geometry tool. Can you do it now? Okay. So remember, you use I don't know whether it worked immediately because you already made the activities. Okay, so I go back to my previous page, maybe. I go back to a custom activity and then open the one that I have just tried something. Okay, now you can have a try. Because I don't know whether it is immediately available in the middle of your editing. All right. If not, then maybe you start up another new activity and start from scratch again, right? And check that you have this geometry tool. Okay, now I go back to edit my own activity. I'm sorry about this. I forgetting to let you know. Okay, I hope that you can do it. Now, if you can't follow me step by step, maybe you forget it because I don't have enough time today. Okay, I just go on with my construction. I hope that you can find this geometry tool now and then add this component. And inside this, and I have a figure of some lines. And next thing I would like to add will be some angles. Okay, so there are two types of angle. Usually you use the first one, just angle and then click 3 points to mark an angles. Okay. And similarly, you make an angle. By the way, you find that there's something strange about the number because it's in radian, okay? And then you may have to select degrees. But now the warning tell you that the overall activity is in radian, okay? So you may have go back to the setup again. Let me see, because in the beginning of the activity, you can see that this is for editing the activity details. You may have to declare the entire activity is in radian or degree, right? So that you can make it consistent. But don't worry, even if you have inconsistent screen, they can still accept it, all right? But if you want to make it neat, all right, then you may come back to adjust this one so that everything is in degree, all right? So I go back to this one now, and it works better. You can see that everything is now in degree. I'm going to add more angles. Okay, so I can have more angle. I want quite a number of angle in this figure. Okay, try your best. If you can't follow everything, then it's still fine. Okay, I hope that you can see the idea. I have all the angles I want in this figure. But actually, I would like to hide some of them. I mean, replace it by just names. All right. So now you can change the objects, right? Appearance one by one. How can you do it? Actually, you have to go back to the list on the left. Here is the object list. Okay, can you see this? So with the object list, then you can now choose to change the angle's appearance. Let's say if I click this one, you can see this one is highlighted. Now, interestingly, all the objects are already shown as an icon, okay? So I can now distinguish that this one I have clicked is now highlighted here. You may have to find your own. Right? Your order of the objects may not be the same as mine. All right. Now, if you can identify this angle icon, then drag it down to the list, then you will have more option to edit the appearance. So some of the symbol may look very strange, but later on, I think you can easily decode it, right, and know what they mean. Now, what I want to do it here is just to change it to a label. Okay. So you can find that I hide the measurement and then I label it as A. All right. If you want to make it looks better, you can use the back. Do you call this back tick? Something like this to enclose the letter A so that the A will be now displayed in latex actually. Okay. So we much better if you're using this back. Is it a back post or something like this? Text to enclose the text inside so that you can turn it into latex. All right, can you see this? Now I turn this angle into a label. So similarly, I can do another one. The second one on my list is here. It is now this one. I can drag it. Forget about this name. You can change it if you like. If not, then it's just fine. Then I just want to mark it as B. And similarly, I have another one here. I can mark it as C. And then you can have another one here down here. And then you can mark it as D. Now you find that I turn some of the angle into letters, okay, so that I can ask some questions about these unknown angles later, and I can leave two of the angles to be shown, right, of the measurement. But one problem here is that either you adjust the accuracy of the, I think you can adjust it here perhaps. It's not shown yet. Okay, I don't know. I have to check it later. How I can adjust the accuracy of the measurements. If not, then you'll find it's a little bit inconvenient for the student to work on this number, right? So basically, you can also do it something like this. Maybe I just want to have a net rough estimation, right? So I can now turn it into a label. At least if I think that this figure is nice, okay, then instead of showing the exact value, and then I can now go on to change this angle. This is another angle on the list. If I put it in the top. So I now can turn it into a label with a number. So that means the measurement can be now turned here to be 30. You see this? All right. Now, be careful. I turn it into a label. So it's not the actual measurement, but it can be good enough for asking questions later on, or you can set up a math question based on this. And then, but of course, you may want to display the degree sign as well. Unfortunately, there's no simple way to display the degree sign. In my computer, which is I'm using a Mac keyboard, I can show you. Okay, can you see my keyboard? Oh, it's on the screen, right? In my Mac keyboard, I can press Option, and then actually this is the number X, I think. Oh, sorry, 0. Okay, 0 on my keyboard. Option 0 will give you the degree sign. Now I don't know whether it works in the Windows keyboard. Maybe you can have a check. All right, I just only know the Apple keyboard. So I can press Option 0, then I have the degree sign, and the degree sign is here. All right, so that is very useful when you try to label the angles. So similarly, this angle, I wanted to, let's say I can mark it here and drag it down and then change it to a number, which is 45 degrees, just a round off of the number, okay? And the degree sign, then, oh, sorry, I forgot this one. Okay, the degree. Okay, so I have this angles mark here. And as far as you don't drag the point anymore, then I think it will be fine. So if you can change the setup, right, later on, don't allow it to be dragged. You can do it later. Basically, you can select all the point. This one is the point, first point. They call it P1, all right? You just want to disable the dragging. And every point you will do the same, right? Disable the dragging, perhaps. Okay, you can do the same later on. Now, so if you go to the preview mode, what you see is that you can preview it, and then some points are already fixed. You cannot drag it. Some points can still be dragged, okay? It depends on what you want to ask. And you can also see the construction tools are included. Now, in some cases, you may want the student to continue to do some construction, all right? Then you can leave it there. If not, then you can come back to this editing mode and then find out whether you want to include the tool. You can include none of the tool or maybe customize it. That means you can select which tool to include if you really want the student to do some construction, okay? And so for time being, I just leave it open. But actually, what I like to do is simply to turn it into a sketch, just like what I've done earlier with the graph. If I turn it into a sketch, then you can find that you can no longer change it, all right? So it looks like the textbook pictures now, all right? So actually, this may be the common way you want to do, or you want to create your question in geometry, perhaps, all right? Then it will be that. And additionally, you can also have the drawing tools provided for the students, in this case, all right? So you can ask the student to sketch and draw on the graph, on the picture as well. Now I go to the question. For the question here, I just want to ask which of the following angles you'll find that I'm asking some strange question. Actually, later on, I also like you to think about what kind of question can be asked in this environment. Okay, so my question is, you can see that as a quite unusual one. So I can go on to multiple choice. So I have 4 angles left here for them to choose. To allow some space, then I will better use the, I think the toggle button. Let me check. Yes, I think it worked. Okay. Or maybe the basic button as well. I think it's also, okay, it's also work. Okay, so actually you can think about it, which cannot be found, or in this case, sorry, which can be found, okay? So actually the option is answer C. And then I can also continue to ask, I can add another note area below. So actually, what is the size of your selected angle in degrees, okay? Right, and then now you can give them a mass response down below. I can drag down here to use and ask them to explain the answer. This is done. So I have a questions like this. Can you see this? Okay. Now you can see how to write the question. Sometimes you can freely design, particularly in this environment, you can prompt the student to do more than simply just solve a typical question, right? In this case, might be ask them to select which angle can be found, and then what is the size of the angle, all right? So they can write it down, the answer, and then later on, okay, submit it and explain. Okay, so that, or even draw it to explain what they see in the graph here. Okay, why do you think that these 2 angles are related to the angle C? See whether they will explain more on the graph like this. Okay, now that is the 5th one. Now I think I won't go on with the geometry examples today. If you go back to my full set of example, you can find that there are a few more questions. All right, number 6. This is based on the same picture, okay? But I changed the questions differently, of course, in this case. And then you can think about in what way you can go on to adjust or adapt your question, right? Even though I use the same picture. Or at the same time, you can also see the changes in the setup as well. Maybe I provide another video later, right, to show you the steps, the detailed steps of doing it, okay? At the moment, I just skip it, okay? Is it okay? I think you have some ideas about the geometry, how the geometry tool can be used in this way, right? All right, so I stopped for a while the recording.